The war in Gaza continues raging as the Israeli army is gradually taking over the besieged region. Heavy battles are ongoing in the northern part of the Gaza Strip, as Hamas and other Palestinian groups are trying to hold off the Israeli Defense Force, IDF. Battles are now mostly occurring in urban areas, making the level of human suffering worse. In the previous video, we covered the war events in Gaza up to November 6th, and today we'll give you an update as of November 27th. This video was sponsored by our kind YouTube members and patrons. Becoming a YouTube member or patron is the best way to support our work, so we're now providing our supporters with exclusive videos to thank them. Join their ranks to watch the Pacific War series, alongside the First Punic War, Sulla's biography, the Italian War of Unification, Risorgimento, the Russo-Japanese War, Albigensian Crusade, History of Prussia, and much more. 80 or so exclusive videos in total. In 2024, YouTube members and patrons will watch series on the Fall of Sparta, the Reconquista, Second Punic War, Spanish War of Succession, and Russian Civil War, and will continue getting early access to all videos, access to an exclusive Discord server, will know our schedule, and vote on future videos. YouTube member and patron support allows us to keep the majority of our videos free in a world where YouTube monetization income is very uneven. If you want to support our work, join their ranks today via the link in the description and pinned comment. Thank you. Since the completion of the encirclement of Gaza City in early November, the Israeli army has been slowly advancing inside the city. By November 6th, the IDF was already in the Tal el-Hawa neighborhood in the south of Gaza City, along with advancing on the Indonesian hospital in the north. On November 7th, the Palestinian media reported that the Israelis approached the al-Shati refugee camp from the north and the east, while battles in Beit Hanun took place as well. On the following day, Palestinian sources reported about an IDF advance to the south of Atatra. Also, the IDF said that its 551st Brigade and the elite Yahalom Combat Engineering Unit destroyed a Hamas tunnel near the UNRWA-run school. The school, which served as a shelter, was also bombed, causing the death of some 50 people, according to Palestinian sources. On November 10th, the Israeli army advanced on the Al-Shifa hospital, which according to the Hamas-run Ministry of Health of Gaza, sheltered 40,000 people in the hospital compound. The Israelis claimed that Hamas has been using the hospital for its operations, along with maintaining the tunnel infrastructure under it. The IDF also continued its operations in the Sheikh Radwan neighborhood. On the following day, the Israeli army captured the Unknown Soldiers Square, where Hamas used to organize its parades, and the Parliament building of Gaza. Battles near Al-Shifa hospital continued as well, and due to the destruction and fuel shortages, it stopped functioning as a hospital. According to the Israeli military, their offer of fuel was rejected by the hospital administration under pressure from Hamas. Battles also took place near the Rantisi Specialist Hospital, Al-Shati Refugee Camp, and the Al-Quds Hospital. By November 14th, the IDF captured the Rantisi hospital and invited the international media to have a look at what they claimed to be an underground armory and command and control center of Hamas beneath the hospital. These claims now look suspicious after the statement of the Israeli service members describing the calendar on the wall with weekdays written in Arabic as names of Hamas operatives taking shifts guarding hostages taken on October 7th. The existence of a bunker under the hospital is clear from the footage. The IDF showed grenades, explosives, and automatic weapons to claim that Hamas used this facility for military purposes, but it is difficult to confidently say that it is evidence, because it could have been planted later for propaganda purposes. The IDF also emphasized that this facility was used to hold hostages, and argued that diapers, childcare tools, curtains on windowless walls, and ropes on chairs are evidence of this. Perhaps the most crucial evidence of a major Hamas-run military underground facility in the Rantisi hospital would have been the connection to a wider network of tunnels, but so far we have not seen that. The situation with regard to the Al-Shifa hospital is different, as there is recent evidence that it has been used by Hamas, at the very least, in the form of footage showing that on October 7th, hostages were brought to the hospital. Al-Shifa was the largest medical facility of the Gaza Strip. It has been subject to bombardment since the start of the war several times, as Israel claimed that Hamas has used the hospital for military purposes and is one of the key components of the group's military infrastructure. The United States intelligence also corroborates this claim. According to the National Security Council official John Kirby, "We have our own intelligence that convinces us that Hamas was using Al-Shifa as a command and control node, and most likely as well as a storage facility." After the 36th Division took control of some buildings of the compound, they showed the international media weapon storage and other items which they alleged to belong to Hamas. They have since also shown tunnels located on the Al-Shifa grounds, which are apparently used by Hamas. The IDF's assault on Al-Shifa has been criticized by the World Health Organization, calling it totally unacceptable, while the medical staff have accused Israel for the deaths of up to 200 civilians on hospital premises, including premature-born babies. On November 16th, the Israeli Defense Minister Gallant announced that the IDF has started the next phase of military operations in Gaza City, after taking operational control of the western part of the city. The IDF also dropped leaflets to areas east of Khan Yunis, asking civilians to evacuate, which demonstrates that Israel does not intend to stop with occupying just the northern part of the Gaza Strip. On November 17th to 18th, fighting was reported on the outskirts of the Jabalia refugee camp and Al-Wafa hospital, while the Al-Shifa hospital, its medical staff and patients were evacuated. On November 19th, the IDF continued operations in different areas of Gaza City, but perhaps the most notable development was the Palestinian attack on the IDF outpost in the Nasser area of Gaza. While this particular attack did not do much to change the situation on the ground, Hamas and other Palestinian groups have not been sitting idly and have tried to inflict as much damage on the Israeli army as they can. Palestinians continue using hit-and-run tactics and arguably use their tunnel infrastructure to hit the IDF in its rear. In this period, we continued seeing footage of the targeting of Israeli armored vehicles and tanks in Gaza, but at this point there is too much speculation, and it is difficult to ascertain how successful most of these attacks were. In the following days, before the sides managed to reach a temporary ceasefire agreement, Israel captured the Supreme Court of Gaza, and the 162nd Division completed the encirclement of Jabalia. Before we talk about the ceasefire and hostage release agreement, we need to discuss the progress that the IDF has made in the Gaza Strip throughout November. The Israeli army has taken control of the central Gaza Strip, captured the shore, and linked their northern and central axes encircling Gaza City. They have made important gains inside the city, including what Israel claims to be the command and control centers of Hamas. Hamas is fighting back with guerrilla tactics and have attacked the Israeli forces with RPGs, small arms, and explosive-carrying drones. But so far this has not prevented the IDF from gaining ground in the Gaza Strip. The much-vaunted tunnels have been used for hit-and-run attacks on the Israeli forces in the rear, but it has not changed the situation on the ground dramatically either, at least for the time being. The IDF has claimed to have destroyed almost 400 tunnel shafts in the Gaza Strip since the start of the invasion. There is unverified footage purportedly showing the IDF flooding a tunnel with seawater. So far, we have not seen any evidence of actual fighting inside tunnels, as the Israeli army is finding other ways to eliminate the threat caused by them. One of the theories behind not-so-successful attempts to keep the IDF at bay is that Hamas is intentionally choosing to make themselves less exposed to the IDF in order to preserve its fighting potential and its leadership. The Israeli media has claimed that Hamas fighters have managed to flee to the south, using humanitarian corridors for that exact purpose, to fight another day. This will enable them to engage in a longer-term insurgency in the Gaza Strip, to make the Israeli occupation of Gaza too costly for the IDF. Meanwhile, airstrikes on the Gaza Strip continue. Enjoying absolute air superiority, Israel continues its campaign of bombardment of Gaza. Civilian infrastructure, which the IDF says is used by Hamas for military purposes, is being bombarded. While we have seen evidence that Hamas is indeed doing that, the sheer level of destruction and civilian deaths, along with the statements of Israeli officials indicating their indifference to collateral damage, continues to cause major criticism of Israel, including by Western countries. For instance, on November 18th, the IDF bombed the UN-affiliated Al-Fakura school in the Jabalia camp, killing hundreds, according to the Hamas-affiliated Gaza Ministry of Health. So far, the IDF has focused its ground invasion on the northern half of the Strip, but the call of the Israeli army to communities near the southern city of Khan Yunis to evacuate indicate that Israel intends to eventually move south as well. A low-intensity conflict on the Israeli-Lebanese border and hostilities in the West Bank continue as well. The IDF and Hezbollah keep exchanging fire, but the situation has not escalated to ground combat yet. Hezbollah may not be doing much to prevent the Israeli progress in Gaza, but it still forces the IDF to dedicate troops to its northern border, while the regular exchange of artillery and missile strikes have forced Israel to evacuate its citizens from the affected area. In the West Bank, the IDF and armed settlers continue raiding the Palestinian areas. Dozens have been killed as a result. In the meantime, pro-Palestinian groups like the Yemeni Houthis and insurgents in Iraq and Syria have been targeting the American military infrastructure in the Middle East. According to the Pentagon, there were 61 attacks on the US forces in Iraq and Syria since October 17th, some of which the US has retaliated to. On November 8th, the Houthis downed an American MQ-9 Reaper drone. The continuous bombardment of the Gaza Strip by the IDF, along with its post-invasion vision, has markedly shifted the dynamics of international support in this war, which was on Israel's side after the October 7th massacre. Statements of Israeli officials continue indicating that Israel intends to carry out a long-term occupation of the Gaza Strip. The notorious National Security Minister Ben Gvir said on November 8th, "What is needed here is an occupation, as every time our enemies lost territory, they lost the war. We should have full control. This will deter our enemies and let them know we have won." The intelligence minister Gila Gamliel wrote in her op-ed in the Jerusalem Post, "Instead of funneling money to rebuild Gaza or to the failed UNRWA, the international community can assist in the costs of resettlement, helping the people of Gaza build new lives in their new host countries." This clearly points to the intention to permanently displace Palestinians from Gaza. Thousands have already fled the fighting and airstrikes in the northern half of Gaza, and there is no indication that Israel is not going to invade the southern half too. As a result, Spain and Belgium have assumed more pro-Palestinian stances in recent weeks. Speaking at a press conference at the Egyptian side of the Rafah crossing on November 24th, the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez urged the international community, and particularly the EU, to recognize the State of Palestine. He added that if the EU does not go forward with this step, Spain will unilaterally recognize Palestine. The Belgian Minister of Development Cooperation, Caroline Gennis, stated that Belgium is considering the recognition of Palestine, while the Deputy Prime Minister, Peter de Sutter, urged an investigation into the Israeli airstrikes on Gaza and called for sanctions against Israel. Along with that, French President Emmanuel Macron reiterated the condemnation of Hamas, but also urged Israel to stop this bombing, which has no justification, according to him. The United States continues its support of Israel, but is also trying to push the Netanyahu government to decrease the intensity of its attacks. The IDF has allowed for several humanitarian pauses in the northern Gaza Strip in order to allow civilians to move south. The Biden administration has urged Israel to make this move. More importantly, the United States was one of the countries, along with Qatar and Egypt, behind the humanitarian pause and hostage release agreement that was sealed on November 22nd. The humanitarian pause is supposed to continue for 4 days, but it is subject to extension. The agreement stipulates the release of 50 hostages held by Hamas and 150 Palestinians imprisoned in Israel. As of November 27th, people were still being released. This humanitarian pause was a result of weeks of negotiations, as Israel was initially reluctant to commit to any ceasefire, fearing that it would give Hamas breathing room and time to regroup. But ultimately Netanyahu was persuaded. The Israeli Prime Minister even accepted the possibility of an extension to allow for further hostage release, but vowed to restart the offensive once the ceasefire ends. The Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has already informed the troops of the Navy's Shayatet 13 Commando Unit this will be a short respite, after which the fighting will continue with intensity, and pressure will be made to bring back more hostages. At least 2 more months of fighting is expected. We are writing this script at a time when the fighting and bombardment has stopped due to the temporary ceasefire, but most probably it will be a short pause for the people of Gaza, who are facing at least a few more months of humanitarian catastrophe in their home. The IDF is advancing in the northern Gaza Strip, and there are already indications that they will eventually move to the south as well. Annexation, occupation, and forceful displacement seem like the options that Gaza residents are facing in the near future. We will continue talking about this conflict in the near future, so make sure to subscribe and press the bell button. Please consider liking, subscribing, commenting and sharing, it helps immensely. Recently we have started releasing weekly Patreon and YouTube member exclusive content. Consider joining their ranks via the link in the description or button under the video to watch these weekly videos, learn about our schedule, get early access to our videos, access our private Discord, and much more. This is the Kings and Generals channel, and we will catch you on the next one.